So I wanted to talk to you about diminished chords and chord scales a little bit today. Thus far in the semester, we've talked mainly about the ascending diminished seventh chords, and you've probably seen this handout before, where if we're in the key of C major and we have the sharp 1 diminished, it would be built on C sharp, and then that would normally resolve up to 2 minor 7 after that, usually, because these diminished chords are chromatic half-step chords that usually have chromatic bass motion and such. So as you can see here, here's 1, sharp 1 diminished, sharp 2 diminished, sharp 4 diminished, and sharp 5 diminished. And the whole idea with these chord scales for these chords is that you combine the diminished chord itself with the chord of resolution. You put those all together and you get this chord scale, so the diatonic diminished chord scale. And what is this target chord? It's just the diatonic notes that go between the diminished 7 chord tones. Okay, so that's another way to think about it. Just put the diatonic notes between the diminished 7 chord here, and you put the diatonic notes in between. So we're in the key of C, so the diatonic notes are D, F, A, C. So here's our C sharp. I guess I should play it in the right octave. And here's our chord of resolution. So that's the chord scale, the C sharp diatonic diminished. Okay, notice that the notes that are a half step above a chord tone are avoid notes. They don't get a number, they just get colored in. And the notes that are a whole step above the chord tone do get a tension. In this case, tension, flat 13, and tension major 7 are on all these 4 chords. Tension 13, tension major 7, tension 13, tension major 7, tension 13, tension major 7. It's a little bit varied in here. Notice that 3 of them have sharp 5, and sharp 1 and sharp 2 all have avoid notes in these 2 places, but sharp 4 does have an avoid note, a tension number here, so tension 11. So really they're almost identical, all these chord scales. It's just that they there's a slight difference in this particular chord. Sorry about that. And let me close down my email here. Okay, so and finally, so before we leave the ascending ones, I just want to remind everybody that this chord has a very similar function to 5/7 of 2. In fact, 5/7 of 2 would, if we had an A here, would be the exact same notes, and then there would be a flat 9. So this particular chord scale is just like an A. If we start from A, we get A, this would be 1, flat 9, sharp 9, flat, and then here's 3. Here's an avoid note, D. Then E would be a chord tone. This would be a flat 13, a flat 7, and a 1. So it's almost the same, chord scale as the A7, flat 9, sharp 9, flat 13 chord scale. The only difference is that this would be a tension on that chord and not an avoid note. Okay, so what would D sharp be? Corresponding to B7, flat 9. And that would be going to E. So again, sharp 2 goes to E. And 5/7 of 3 also goes to E. So they're just like they're almost like secondary dominants without a root. All right? Now, as we talked about a little bit, I think, in this so far, there are 2 descending diminished chords. So that's flat 3 and flat 6 diminished 7. So where is flat 3 going? Normally to 2. So flat 3 goes to 2. Maybe 5, 1. Okay. If we have a flat 6, and then that's going to go to 5 usually, but I'll get to that in just a second. It really doesn't go to 5 very often, but that's where it's sort of leading down. The bass is leading down to 5, so it does go to this chord here usually instead of 5, and then maybe it goes to 5 afterward or something else. Okay, but how do we get the chord scale for flat 3? Well, it's the same as sharp 2, right? Flat 3 is the same as sharp 2. So we'll spell it differently when we're spelling the chord, because we'll usually spell it like this, because the E flat's probably going down to D, and the G flat's probably going down to F. But we'll see that it makes sense to spell these upper notes not as B double flat and D double flat, but as diatonic notes in the key of C. A and C are diatonic notes in the key of C. And then in the key of C, if we have an A flat diminished, we might often spell it like this. So A flat, B, D, F, because this is a diatonic note, that's a diatonic note. These are all diatonic notes in the key of C. So we might want to spell it this way. You know, instead of A flat, C flat, E double flat, and G double flat, we get this spelling, which is a little bit easier to read. But remember, these are enharmonic to D sharp diminished 7 and G sharp diminished 7. So we're gonna, when we want to write the chord scale, we'll always write these. We'll write the chord scale as if it's sharp 2. Even though we analyze it as flat 3, we're going to write the chord scale that's sharp 2, and that should help us. It should be a little bit easier. Finally, one more. So remember, these flat 3 is probably, it's 3, flat 3 diminished, 2, 5, 1. That's how it would normally work. So 3, flat 3, 2. So it's a chromatic passing chord, right? And the same with 6, flat 6, and then 5, and then maybe something like that. So flat 6, flat 6 goes down to 5. So they're chromatic passing chords. These auxiliary diminished chords we haven't studied, but what happens is they sort of delay the resolution to a 1 chord. A 1 diminished 7 delays the resolution. So if we're on a 5, we can go to a 1 diminished, and that will resolve to a 1. So it's kind of a little embellishment of the 1 chord here. Okay? And so the 5 chord, 5 diminished 7, if we're on a 2 chord and then we go to a 5, well, we go to a 5 diminished, and then it could go up to a regular 5, 7, and to a 1. So these are used in much different way than the other passing diminished. These, as you could hear when I was playing that, are going to occur on a relatively strong harmonic stress. So strong, weak, strong, and then weak would be the resolution chord. And then for this one down here, maybe and then we could do, for example, 2, 2, 3, 4, and then we go to the G diminished 7, strong beat, and then weak beat, and another strong beat. So these auxiliary diminished come on strong harmonic stresses, whereas the passing ones are usually going to be coming on weak harmonic stresses. Like, for example, sharp 2, we're on 2, then the weak beat is sharp 2, and then the strong beat is going to be 3, minor 7. So those will usually come on weaker harmonic stresses. But these come on stronger harmonic stresses. How do we write the chord scales for auxiliary? Well, they're the most difficult of all, but we still follow the same principle, which is write the diminished chord properly. C, E flat, F sharp enharmonically, A enharmonically, C, and then you put the diatonic notes of C major in between. So you get that note, G, and that B. Those are all diatonic notes from C major, and they go right in between. So that's how we get the chord scale. And as you can see, the tension arrangement is a little different with these auxiliary diminished chords. We see the tension sort of in the, or the avoid notes sort of in the middle and upper part of the chord scale, instead of over here, the avoid notes were always in the lower part of the chord scale. So what do you do here on for G diminished 7? We're going to write the chord correctly. You know, this could be a C sharp, perhaps, or a D flat, G, B flat, D flat, E, G. Write the notes of the chord, and then in between we put the diatonic notes that go in between these pitches, and we get our auxiliary diminished chord scale. What does it sound like? Well, here's our one chord, here's our one diminished. Okay, and we go to our 5 chord. 1, 5 diminished. And then maybe mixo for G7, and then you move 1 over here. Okay, so that is the, let's see here. So that has been a little about the diminished chords and Roman numerals and their chord scales. I'll do a video next on voice leading diminished sevenths.